Listeners participation program.
Talk today.
What's on your mind, Cayman? If you're ready to talk, we are ready to listen. Discussing current events and local news, community spotlights, hot topics, listener stories, cultural and historical discussions, environmental issues, fun and lighthearted topics, guest interviews. Cayman, basically anything you want to talk about, we are ready to listen. Here's your guest host.
Good afternoon and welcome to Talk Today. I am your guest host, Orrett Connor, and no guests in the studio at this point in time, so the phone lines will be open. Toll-free number 1-800-534-8255, 949-8037, 949-6990, WhatsApp number 925-3261. So if you have something to say, we're ready to listen and maybe to say something back to you as well. Please stay tuned. Talk Today. We'll be back shortly.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways. Call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Doctors Hospital. Peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
Talk Today is also brought to you by Mike's Builders. Call 923-0706. Mike Builders. They make it happen. Talk Today is reminding you
to avoid any statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use indecent language or make any statement that is false or misleading. Call 1-800-534-8255, 949-6990. 949-8037 or WhatsApp us on 925-3261.
And now, back to Talk Today.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Today being Tuesday, the 8th day of July, 2024. No guests in the studio. We do have a caller, and those of you who listened to the buzz this morning, we are in this studio were Minister with responsibility for Caymanian employment and immigration, Honorable Michael Miles, and the chair and the deputy chair of the Caymanian Status and Permanent Residency Board. They were in the studio as well. Quite a lively conversation, especially when the phone lines were opened up as well. I have been looking at some of the WhatsApp messages that came in, some that were unable to be addressed simply because there wasn't sufficient time. And if time allows today, I will rehash some of those and possibly read out the comments that were made and try to get feedback or to offer feedback on those as well. Meanwhile, let's take the caller. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today.
Hi. Who did I catch? Oh, my God. I guess nobody yet. We got to wait. We have to wait, right?
Yes.
Yeah. What's happening? All is well?
Yep. How are things with you? How was the holiday?
Boy, you never realize how tired you are until you get a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
You know, plus the long school vacation. It's good, and you know, I just wanted to call and say, wishing all of the bus wardens and drivers a good and safe summer, and I hope they'll get some rest because I didn't realize how tired I was until it was time to go to school and there was no school to go to. Thank God. You know. And then I was there every morning, I'll see if it takes a toll on you and walk on those staircase. Buses every day, you know, and it's still a good blessing and glad to have a job. And I just want to say that, you know, school is closed, but I think they got like 2 weeks of summer school. So I'm just asking people to please be very careful with the school buses. These are Proctor Primary School children that is being dropped off now at their location. To look out for these buses when they're on the road for the next 2 weeks, I think it is. And Oh, see, I just want to say that, I've been a warden now for, going into almost 18 years now.
Wow.
And I wouldn't trade it for nothing in this world. I just want people to know that a bus warden job and a driver for the bus is not an easy job. And we try to take every precaution and every good measure to protect our children while we're on the road. And knowing the school is closed. And in spite of what we all say about the government and the school system and so forth, working there with the children, every day. And I have seen, I have heard, and I have felt. And, they got so much stuff in place for our children. And the children need some extra push from their parents. And I'm asking the parents today, your kids are home on vacation. Please try to instill into them some of your time and make them know how valuable education is, how valuable it is to respect who they come along and cut out the attitude and, stuff like that. And parents, try to let them go to church a little bit and try to put something else in their mind except for all of the electronics and the technology that is ruining our children today in this whole world, not just Cayman. But knowing we are so small, it is even more noticeable here in Cayman,
Yes, so true.
It is destroying our children. And you can't even tell your children to go to the room tomorrow, see, because in the internet on your phone, and you got to go in there on your phone or whatever it is may be in there or what you have in your hand. So I'm just asking our parents, so please, when the new school year comes, try to put some more emphasis on your children in regards to respecting, obeying, and getting an education. Because, the tools are there at all our government schools and any other school, but they have to want to do this education. So I'm just begging the parents to please instill into your children for the coming school year. It is not far away. We turn around twice. August going to be here, and we just need to teach our children a little bit more home manners for when they come out into the public, to use it gracefully, so you can respect them just how they would want to be respected, and the adult want to be respected. See where I'm coming from?
So true, yes.
So I just leave that with you, and I just asking that all the bus wardens and the drivers will get some rest. And our job is very fully sensitiveness and job. I know that a lot of these bus wardens and drivers love their job, but we need some support. The government giving us all that they can give us and more, but we need some home drive into our children as well too.
Yes.
One more thing, I'm going to let you go. We're talking about the school in Cayman Brac. I'm not going to say about the price and the this and that. Our population is growing rapidly. Cayman Brac is growing rapidly. And one day, whatever that school may become, it will be needed. We got a school in Northside, and I don't even know if that whole school is being used when school is in. I don't know. I'm not going to even try to question it. I don't know. And that is a humongous school as well, too. So, it might be a big bill for Cayman Brac for such a small island. But Cayman, let me tell you something. A lot of us can probably go there with our grandchildren and put them in school. So, let's just try to get it built and have it there for when we need it, for emergency, hurricane, or the children will be coming from all over the world, because then just about everybody has a helper in Cayman Brac, and the stores has helpers, workers, and the restaurants and so forth has workers. So it will be in use one of these fine days. We have to look forward to things. We just can't build for today, because when we just build for today, next year it can't accommodate. Yep. We already outgrown it before it's even completed most times. Exactly. But anyhow, I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, caller. We're going to take our first commercial break, folks. Please stay tuned. Talk today. We'll be back shortly. And yes, it is 2025, not 2024. So I took you back 1 year for the 8th of July, 2024. My apologies. Please stay tuned.
Did you know ordering your favorite sandwich from Subway just got easier? Yeah, picture this. No more waiting in line. No more fussing with cash. Just a delicious taste of Subway at your fingertips. With our new app, ordering your go-to sub is as easy as a few taps on your phone. Plus, receive exclusive deals and earn loyalty points with every purchase made on the app. Download the new Subway app today and get ready to ditch the lines and drive straight into your flavor. Visit the App Store or Google Play Store on your mobile phone and search for Subway Cayman Islands. Subway. Eat fresh.
Did you know that Doctors Hospital provides urgent care services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And Doctors Hospital's urgent care physicians have access to the most advanced MRI and CT imaging in the Caribbean, providing reliable diagnostics when you need it most. When you need quality urgent care for an illness or injury, Doctors Hospital is here for you 24/7. Whether it's a migraine, chest or abdominal pain, shortness of breath, broken bones, or another urgent need, Doctors Hospital at the top of Walker's Road. Urgent care right now.
Shipping to the Cayman Islands is fast, reliable, and seamless thanks to Cayman Airways Cargo. Need it faster than ocean freight? Cayman Airways Cargo offers multiple cargo flights to Grand Cayman from Miami weekly, so your packages, whether big, small, or in between, will arrive in no time. You can even use a Cayman Airways Cargo US address for your online shopping. Cayman Airways Cargo is also the only carrier providing air freight services for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Contact us today and see why Cayman Airways Cargo was voted as Cayman's best cargo and logistics company in the Best of Cayman Awards. For details, visit CaymanAirways.com/cargo.
Wouldn't it have been grand if you had purchased land 30 years ago? It may not be 2020, but a perfect vision has never been more clear. Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, poised for growth with an eye on the future. Your land, your history, your future. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Of course, there was no show yesterday, but we see that Levy, the brother of Miss Marva Solomon, celebrated a birthday yesterday, and so we're sending out a happy belated birthday greetings to Levy, coming from his sister, Miss Marva. Happy to do that, even though this is Talk Today, but you know, whenever we get an opportunity, we plug as much as we possibly can. So, lively discussion, like I said, this morning. Let's look at some of the questions that may have gone unanswered as a result of the time constraints and, not wanting to invade anyone else's space. But we do have our listeners, and if they're asking for answers or for viewpoints, we can certainly extend from the buzz to Talk Today to continue the discussion. That's what we're here for. So this person said this morning that while they can understand the argument about getting residency and employment rights certificate by marriage and getting naturalization being extended to 15 years, they go on to say, but does that 15-year also apply to persons who applied for PR? Then they ask, what will be done about employers who overstate qualifications in order to keep Caymanians from being employed? Okay, let's address address each of those separately. So the minister indicated that the new legislation will extend the period of time that one will be able to qualify for permanent residence. That would be extended. Naturalization being extended, I think one writer or one caller did call in and clarify the distinction between naturalization and Caymanian status, and pointed out that to be naturalized or the provisions for naturalization as a British Overseas Territories citizen, that is contained in the British Nationality Act 1981. Prior to that, it was the British Nationality Act 1948. And that's a piece of legislation that we have no control over. What you can do is, if you say that a person, if you put into legislation that a person will not be able to obtain permanent residence until they have been here for 15 years, then you're not changing the British Nationality Act, you're not changing the legislation as it relates to naturalization. What you are changing is, or extending, is the period of time that they will be before they can obtain permanent residence. And of course, without permanent residence, they would not be able to apply to be naturalized, because under the British Nationality Act, it says that you have to be free from the limitation on the time that you may remain in the territory. So if you're not free from that limitation for 15 years, then you have to wait those 15 years plus 1 year after that before you're eligible to apply for naturalization. So that would be 16 years in total. Of course, if the person were to obtain Caymanian status through other means other than acquiring permanent residence and then becoming a British Overseas Territories citizen, if they were to obtain permanent Caymanian status otherwise, then they would certainly be eligible to apply for naturalization under the British Nationality Act. But again, it must be made clear that we have no control over what the provisions of the British Nationality Act are. We have no control. Our Parliament doesn't pass anything in relation to the British Nationality Act. That is done by the United Kingdom Parliament, and what it does, it speaks to the various types of citizenship that you can acquire under that British Nationality Act. And one of those is British Overseas Territories citizen, formerly known as British Dependent Territories citizenship, formerly known as citizen of the United Kingdom and colonies. They just change the title a little bit to sort of I guess to make it sound a little bit more progressive, a little bit gentler, but at the end of the day, we're still a colony of the United Kingdom. So then the other part of the WhatsApp message, the person wanted to know what will be done about employers who overstate qualifications in order to keep Caymanians from being employed. Well, most recently we saw a situation where some company was fined in the courts for failing to reveal that Caymanians had applied for positions that were advertised as well. If this were to happen, this actually would be a breach of the immigration law and could be prosecuted just like the other case was prosecuted as well. And that is something that the various boards, for instance, the Work Permit Board and the Business Staffing Plan Board, as well as those administrators within work who process and either approve or deny work permits, would have to be vigilant about. And one of the things that you could do there is, well, I think they're required to submit the qualifications of the person for whom they're applying for a work permit. They have to produce those as well. And you constantly hear people talk about the fact that in this day and age, you can go and get something off the internet, college degrees, whatever. So you would have to, those persons processing those applications would have to ensure that they are genuine, that they can be verified as well. But then you ask the question, what company would want to overstate the qualifications of an individual, knowing quite well that that individual does not possess those qualifications, and yet you want them to work in your company? What legitimate company would do that? But you don't know what you don't know. And, some people will go to various lengths to do that. As a matter of fact, that whole situation may have been addressed in another WhatsApp message that was sent. This person who questioned the fact that some persons are getting work permits and then they go on to other individuals looking for work as well. I'm trying to find that. I think this person, this may be it. The person saying something about they were a small company. Yeah, maybe the, okay. This person says, as a small company, this is what they wrote into the WhatsApp. As a small company, we have had work permit holders working outside the work permit without our permission. When this act was discovered, we advised WORC, W-O-R-C, that the party was doing what the party was doing and would like to revoke their permit and have them sent off the island as they were breaking our laws. Sadly, we were not told by WORC that we could not have them sent off island because they were not breaking a law. This was very confusing to me. Is this possible that someone doing act was not breaking the law? Sounds a little bit confusing if they're working outside the terms and condition of their work permit. The question that I would have for this writer, though, and if they're listening in this afternoon, they can, I welcome them to respond to that as well. At what time of the day and of the week was your work permit holder working outside of the work permit, the terms of the work permit, working for someone other than you, the work permit holder. The other question would be, you as the work permit holder, did you have sufficient work for that person to do? 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, some 6 days a week possibly as well. Did you have enough work for them to do? Were they working outside of the conditions during that period, or were they what we used to refer to as getting a little roast on the side, on the weekends or whatever? So that's the case. Now, the other question in relation to this is, what authority does the employer have over a work permit holder? Can they simply remove them from the jurisdiction? I believe we have to go to a commercial break. So when we return, I'll give you the answer to that. Can a work permit, an employer remove someone from the jurisdiction even though because they hold a work permit for that person? Let's investigate that when we return. Please stay tuned. Talk today. We'll be back shortly.
Stay cyber secure with Cayman National. Here are a few tips that will benefit you. Ensure to log out completely when you finish any online banking activities. Be aware of phishing attempts and only click links from trusted sources that are sent from your device through emails and messages. Remember, Cayman National will never ask you for your credentials. If you suspect a fraud attempt or that your account has been compromised, please immediately contact our customer support team at 949-8300.
Hungry? Need Subway any time of the day?
Yeah.
We've got you covered. Subway at Anderson Square, Centennial Towers, and Countryside Shopping Village is open 24/7, serving up fresh, delicious subs anytime you need them. And for your weekend cravings, West Shore Center is also open 24 hours on Friday nights and until 1 a.m. on Saturdays, because it's never too late for a great meal. Skip the line and order ahead with the Subway Cayman Islands app, or get your favorites delivered straight to your door with Bento and Let's Eat. Fresh, fast, and always here when you need us. Subway. Eat fresh.
Accidents and illnesses can strike without warning. Ouch! When it comes to urgent care, every second counts. At Doctors Hospital, we have a dedicated team of experienced doctors and nursing staff available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't waste time in an overcrowded emergency room when you need urgent care. Whether it's a broken bone, a severe infection, or a sudden illness, trust in Doctors Hospital's unwavering dedication to providing the best immediate care. For complete urgent care when you need it the most, choose Doctors Hospital, located in Georgetown, 16 Middle Road.
Join us on July 10th at 5:30 p.m. for the BRAC launch of the Seamen's Registry at the Veterans and Seamen's Association Hall, as Celebrate Cayman invites seamen and their families to honor the vital contributions of our seafaring community to the Cayman Islands. Experience historical displays, hear inspiring speakers, and explore interactive exhibits. Plus, be among the first to visit the new Seafarers Registry website. Mark your calendars for July 10th. Exhibitions and activities will continue through July 12th. Let's come together to celebrate our maritime heritage.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today. I am your guest host, Orrett Connor. No guests in the studio yet. If you want to call in, toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. Also, 949-8037, 949-6990. WhatsApp number, 925-3261. So, what are the responsibilities of the employer of a person for whom they hold a work permit? The employer, number one, first of all, responsible for paying all fees associated with that work permit. We hear about constant breaches of that, where employees are required to pay their own work permit. That's a breach of the legislation. If the employee is no longer in your employ, you are required by law to notify the authorities' work of the cessation, the ceasing of that person's employment. It is then up to that person, and you should give proper notification. That is, put it in writing to work. You should also put in writing to your employee the fact that you are terminating their employment. And I'm sure that the labor law will cover issues in relation to how you go about that as well. But you are required to notify the authorities of the cessation of that work permit. Some people, you hear stories that they demand that their employee hand their passport over to them so that they can take it in and have the work permit canceled and all of those things. I think most passports say in it that that passport belongs to whatever government, whatever country has issued that passport, and it should not be allowed to fall into the hands of unauthorized persons. I don't believe that an employer would be considered an authorized person in this instance. I think they're talking more about governmental persons as well. So you inform the authorities that you have canceled the work permit and let them do their part that they're required to as well. Okay, we do have a caller. Let's grab the caller. I have about 8 minutes before we go to our headline news at 1 o'clock. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today.
Good afternoon. How you doing?
Good afternoon. I'm fine. How are you?
All right. A couple of things about what you were saying in regards of the employers. A lot of that has been going on this island for many, many years. As long as I've known that people have been working on the side and doing extra jobs, even if they, and the employees say, well, okay, they're going to have an extra job if they're going to work for someone else. Mm-hmm. My question is, if that person's working for, say for an example, a carpenter, he comes and do something, a roast on the side, he gets injured, who's now liable for him? Because now he's under the work permit, and his employer, his original employer, unbeknown to him, knowing that he was doing a roast on the side, mm-hmm. he has an insurance and that the other employer is paying for. So who would be responsible for his job? And if work comes and catch him working unauthorized without permission, then the other employee will be being held liable for it, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and like I said earlier, it depends on when it is taking place. Let's say, for instance, if this person is catching a roast when he or she would normally be working for their employer, that places a question mark as to whether or not the employer has sufficient work for them to do. If they're catching a roast on the weekends or even after their work day is completed, then that's a different story.
Yeah, but then would that not taken away a job from a job that a Caymanian could be doing?
Certainly.
Because that's kind of a conflict of interest, because now you're doing a job that, even if it's cutting a yard or doing something on a roof or something, that's a job that a lot of Caymanians can be doing. Mm-hmm. So therefore, anybody, you have 50 people doing 100 different roasters, that means that I could pull in a work permit for somebody, they come to the island, and I don't have nothing for them to do, so I'm going to say I don't have anything for them to do, so I subcontract them out for someone else to find a job for them. The other issue is that we're part employers or having people before they come to Cayman sign contracts, and I mean big companies having them to sign contracts saying that we're not going to pay you for holidays, we're not going to pay you for overtime. Is that now legal?
I think that under the labor law, and I'm no expert in the labor law, but if you have an agreement outside of what the labor law requires and you come to an agreement, that may be legal as long as it does not contravene the labor law.
Yeah, but that's kind of under duress because if you're in a different country, either Honduras or wherever the case may be, and you sign that contract because you want to get a better way of life, not knowing the amount of hours you're going to be working, not knowing the amount of public holidays you're going to be working.
Well, you shouldn't sign that contract if you don't have all of those details.
Then you put in a catch-22 because sometimes some of the people come here, they want a better way of life to feed their family, feed it, and that's like you putting them under duress saying, well, the only how you're going to get here if you sign this contract. And that's the only how you're going to get here. The only how you're going to get a decent job, the only way you're going to be able to feed your children if you sign this contract before you get here. So
yeah, I can understand that being under duress, but they still have the choice of whether or not they want to accept that.
Yeah, but they would not look at a Caymanian and say, oh, well, before you hire a job, because you know that that's the law. The other thing is, too, is that one of the other things that is highly done in this island is where they're making some of the expats and pay for their own work permit, pay for their own health insurance.
I mentioned that before. That's illegal. That's all against the law.
Yeah, but they're constantly doing it. And the people are, they even though they report it, it's still nothing's being done. But
well, are they really? If first of all, if they agree to pay for it, pay for their own work permit, they're just as culpable as the employer who's making them pay for it as well.
The employer is taking it out of their salary.
Yeah, if they allow the employer to take it out of their salary, they should go and report it. I'm sure that any report that is made in that vein, that would be properly investigated. I'm almost certain that it would, especially if there is documentary evidence that the cost of that work permit is being deducted from their wages.
Well, here's what they normally do. They normally put a temporary work permit in, and then once they deduct that out of their salary, if they make any arguments or anything about that, then they don't renew their permit. And that's where that temporary comes in. And that's not something I'm asking you. That's something I know as a fact.
Yeah, but Carl, it sounds as if you're saying you're laying all of the blame on the employer and none on the employee because they feel that they need to get the job, and as a result of that, they won't.
If the employers are doing scrupulous acts,
unscrupulous,
investigate right, and they're actually being disingenuous to the employees, and when the employees report it, basically what the employees do is get rid of the employees.
The employer get rid.
Yeah.
But in that particular case, that there are provisions in the law. If the employee is being victimized, then that would be a strong argument for possibly allowing the person to remain on island and to seek employment as well if they have been the victim of trafficking.
Right. All right. Well, I'll leave that to you for right now.
Okay. Thank you very much. For that as well. This one I'm going to read it, and then when we return from the headline news at 1:00, I don't even think I have enough time to read it. I'll tell you what it's all about, though. We keep hearing people talk about dog walking and points for dog walking to get PR. Let's talk about that when we return. One of our listeners this morning did send in a question about that. So we will share it and then let's talk about it. Please stay tuned. Talk Today. We'll be back shortly.
Information, entertainment, inspiration.
Covering Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, Cayman Brac.
Since 1976 till now.
Radio Cayman in the Cayman Islands.
From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines. Local, regional, international news.
The Headline News is brought to you by Kirk Market and Health Services Authority.
With a look at your latest headlines, I'm Javi Ebanks. The Utility Regulation and Competition Office announces the launch of a request for proposal for the largest ever utility-scale solar energy and battery storage project in the Cayman Islands. The request follows a successful request for qualifications process in which 6 companies were identified as qualified to submit proposals to deliver 22.5 megawatts of dispatchable renewable energy capacity. When operational, the solar and battery project will dispatch 350% more power than the capacity of the existing 5-megawatt Bodentown solar farm. The utility office says the project marks a historic step towards reducing reliance on fossil fuels and improving the sustainability, affordability, and reliability of electricity supply in the islands. In regional news in Bahamas, police are investigating a suspected murder-suicide that happened early Tuesday. A 58-year-old man entered a home with a gun and a cutlass. He attacked a woman with the cutlass and shot a man, killing him. A young girl was also shot and injured. Police later found the suspect near the house with what appeared to be a self-inflicted wound. A firearm was found at the scene. Emergency medical services checked all 4 persons, and the man and the suspect were confirmed dead. The woman and the girl were taken to the hospital, and their condition is not yet known. In Trinidad and Tobago, the Court of Appeal has confirmed that Dr. Rudal Munilal will get Trinidad and Tobago $475,000 in damages. The money is for a false story published by the now defunct TT Mirror in 2016. The story claimed that he was the 4th richest person in the country, estimated at Trinidad and Tobago $2.58 billion. A High Court judge ruled the article was defamatory in 2020, and the appeals court agreed. It said the claims were serious and not backed by facts. It also said that journalists must check facts before publishing. The court said freedom of speech does not mean freedom from responsibility. Columnist Juliette Davey must pay Trinidad and Tobago $69,000 in legal costs and Trinidad and Tobago $46,000 in appeals cost. That's your latest headlines. I'm Jevi Ebanks.
Radio Cayman. More news available at www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter. Radio Cayman Headline News.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
Do you have a healthcare question but not sure who to ask? Contact HSA's Patient Call Center to speak to one of our experienced clinical team members. We are here to answer your questions and help guide you through your healthcare journey. Need to make an appointment? Our team can help. Contact HSA at 949-8600 or email info@hsa.ky. At HSA, we are committed to caring for you.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands. Captain Keith Parker Tibbetts, MBE, JP. Following the 1932 hurricane, like most young men growing up in Cayman during the era, the call of the sea was heard more strongly than any other. Keith Tibbetts Sr. of Cayman Brac was no different. After assisting with the rebuilding of the family home, resurrecting the family car, and helping other relatives and the community rebuild, he built and sold several catboats before going to Jamaica to seek employment as a seaman. In 1936, he joined the Canadian banana boat Lady Somers and eventually found himself involved in the global war effort. Keith participated in the evacuation of Dunkirk in World War II. He served in the Merchant Marine from 1939 to 1940, and then as a seaman gunner on the Jamaica Pioneer. On D-Day, Keith Tibbets was off the coast of France, manning an anti-aircraft gun. Following this, he joined the Royal Fleet Auxiliary, where he served until his ship was torpedoed and sunk by a German submarine. Following this, he took a job on a tanker, which was home-based in Trinidad for bunkering American convoys, carrying military personnel and supplies to the European allies, becoming chief engineer. Following the war efforts, Keith continued the shipping trade, moving into boat building with his brothers, joining the Trinidad Shipping Company and National Bulk Carriers. This was part 5 of a special Sister Islands vignette series dedicated to Captain Keith Parker Tibbets.
I'll be back. I've got 22 more days.
Radio Cayman is pleased to feature this special Sister Islands historical vignette brought to you by the Ministry of District Administration and Lands. Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands.
Explore your history, explore your land, explore your Sister Islands, the ultimate staycation experience. Your culture, your freedom, the land that time forgot isn't gone. It's your Sister Islands.
Discover all that our Sister Islands have to offer.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. The phone lines are open. I'm going over some of the comments and queries that were made this morning in relation to the Minister for Caymanian Employment and Immigration, Honorable Michael Miles, being in the studio this morning along with the Chair and Deputy Chair of the Caymanian Status and Residency Board as well. We do have a caller on WhatsApp. Let's grab the caller. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today.
Good afternoon, OC. How are you today?
Good afternoon. I tried to reach you this morning after your call, but couldn't get through. So you may have seen some missed calls.
Oh, well, yeah, I have to operate two phones. I have to operate a Canada phone and the Cayman phone. So
I figured that, yes.
I'm so sorry about it. Is that something we can discuss on air or off air?
Sure. No, we can discuss on air because it was actually in relation to the points that you made this morning about the British Nationality Act. Because
let's start on that.
Yes, because we had heard reference being made to nationality in the Caymanian context, and I think it was important to realize for people to understand that we have no control over the British Nationality Act and the nationality laws. What our laws do is facilitate a person getting to the point where they qualify under the British Nationality Act.
Well, that's the first point. Actually, I was going to raise with you because I was going to raise it in the form of a question and saying, have some of the stuff that the minister said, was it legally vetted? Because it seemed to me that when he said, well, we're going to change the rules regarding naturalization, those are not things that the government in Cayman, as you're saying, can change. I mean, recommendations can be made to the British government, but I'm not quite sure if they would be able to change the law specifically for Cayman unless it was to be changed across the board for all British overseas territories. So,
if I could interject there, Billy, for a second.
Sure.
In my lifetime, and I've been around quite a while now. In my lifetime, I have not known yet. I've seen a case where the United Kingdom government has sought to consult us when changes are being made to the British Nationality Act. They simply do it.
Exactly. Yeah, simply do it. So I think people need to understand that, and I think it's good that you picked that up, because it is creating an expectation among some people who might not be fully understanding of the act. It might create an expectation that this is something that Cayman can do. But that would assist. I wonder if the AG is vetting some of what is being said here, and that leads me to the second point. Again, today, they spoke about how the new measures will not be retrospective, and I know that the Honorable Acting Deputy Governor, when she spoke in her speech in Parliament a few days ago, and I listened to virtually the whole speech, she kept saying, well, this is not going to be retrospective. She used that term about 8 times. But again, whatever if they decided to apply these measures straight away, that would not be retrospective. That, again, is misleading to the public. It is more or less, the public is likely to get the impression that, because it will be retrospective, it will be illegal. Well, first of all, even if it was retrospective, it would not be illegal so long as it was clarified that it was retrospective. But secondly, factually, it would not be retrospective. Okay, it would not be that it's a question of policy what the government wants to do, but they should not continue describing it as retrospective, because I think it is quite misleading. The third point, OC, I asked the minister also, which you probably also heard, I asked about whether cabinet has considered the possibility of limiting status grants pegged to the natural population growth, that's the net growth in population, because we've spoken about that before on air, and some people have said, if you had a net population growth the preceding year of 400, then the following year you can't issue status of more than, say, 50%. You have to set the percentage in the law so that you are not changing it every year. And once that percentage is reached, whether those people are Caymanians by marriage, if the percentage is reached, then the cap is finished. Now, you don't count in that percentage, you don't count those who are Caymanians as of right, because those are as of right. But in terms of those other ones, now, I would have loved the minister to actually say that this has been discussed by cabinet and has been voted down for this and that reason. Up to this point, it just appears to me that despite the fact that people have been really calling for this and have been emphasizing that all these measures you are trying to put in place, they might not achieve the targets you are looking for in terms of reversal of certain trends. I just would have wanted it to be said that cabinet has had a look at this. But interestingly, what he has said, a lot of people like it. We'll see what comes of it.
Yes.
He did say that the white paper was a joke, which I really liked, like the one they issued before the election. He did say it was a joke. Now, I didn't use that term, but I 100% agree with him, because I think it was a bit of a sham, because they didn't really address any of the issues there. But otherwise, I'm sorry I missed your call.
That's okay.
But it's interesting that what you wanted to talk to me about is exactly the same thing that I wanted to talk to you about. But at the moment, it does look like there's a lot being said, and a lot of people like it. But let us see what is going to come out of it.
Okay. Now, my question to you is,
sure,
if you were to link the grants of permanent residence or status to the great population growth rate in Cayman, how would you treat the applications on a first come first served basis, or would you set up some sort of a lottery, or would you set up a quota?
That's the interesting bit. Now, the people I've discussed this with, I'm not the originator of this idea, by the way. I just don't want to mention the particular candidate.
Understood.
Who ran in 2017, but I know that he still keeps making the same point. Yes, that will be a challenge. Once you decide, you say, okay, fine, we don't want it to be more than this. One suggestion has been to have a lottery. To just say, okay, fine, this is it, and you're going to have a lottery. Another one could be, again, this one is controversial, they could raise the number of points so that the cutoff point would yield about the right number. Let me give you an example of how it used to be done. This is back in my original home country.
Mm-hmm.
My original home country, what they used to do is like when people reach the end of primary school, they write an exam. Now, when they write an exam, they wouldn't have enough people enough spaces for Form 1 for them to go to the next grade. So what they would do is they would say, okay, how many spaces do we have? We've got so many thousand. Okay, in order for us to get approximately 5,000, which is what we need, where shall we put the cutoff point? So this year they might say, well, you need to get 1,000 points this year, or next year you might need to get 1,500. It was usually an approximation of how many points you have to get, so that not so many people qualify. That is another way in which it could be done. Now, the way that one would work out, it would work out approximately, because you can't work it out to a mathematical precision. But those are the two. One, a lottery. The other one, just to say, well, we will increase the number of points every year or drop them the number of points in order so that we can achieve that. Now, part of the problem with both of those is one, maybe some people who qualify might be less needed in terms of a profession. There might be that feeling that you are gambling with the economy. I know that point could be raised. The other thing is that the people who get the most points are likely to be maybe those who have got very good jobs or maybe have got more money or whatever it is and so forth. So you don't want to do that. You might have to work it in such a way that you see some people who maybe might not be rich, but they should get an opportunity. That is a big challenge, but I think there are ways in which it can be done once you decide the policy to say that we want to limit the cap. And the reason people are talking about that, OC, and I think you know this, is because there is some doubt as to exactly how much these are going to achieve, these measures. Will they really result in a substantial reduction of status grants, considering that it won't apply straight away, it will start applying in 9 years, considering that there will be exemptions, considering that in government they were not giving so many grants anyway. When you put all that together, you start to doubt, exactly whether it will meet the targets that the Caymanians want, is to try and reverse or at least arrest this trend that they are being outnumbered in their own country. So,
and what about what about the backlog that is there already? I still have to address all of those applications that would have been there prior to any new legislation coming into effect.
Yes, well, and I see that's the other thing. This is one of my earliest calls, was that you see the government needs to say, for example, how they would treat those. Now, they are free to say that the new laws will apply to pending applications. They are free to say that, so long as they make it clear in the law, there's nothing in the Constitution or human rights instruments which will prevent that. But that also has to be determined. But if they decide as a matter of policy that those will be decided under the current law, that's a policy decision they can make. But they just need to understand that legally speaking, there's nothing preventing them from saying the new law will apply to everybody who has already applied.
And there's enough case law to support something like that. I'm sure that there would be strong arguments to say, listen, these persons' applications have been in the pipeline for so long. They have they had a legitimate expectation that their applications would be considered under the current the legislation in place at that point in time.
There is abundant case law. One, the abundance case law is very clear. There is never, ever any legally recognized legitimate expectation that the law will not change before your application is dealt with. There's a lot of case law on that. In fact, it's simple and straightforward. It's an established principle. So.
Okay, got another question for you.
Sure.
With the recent success at the Privy Council level in relation to the point system, how much guidance should the government take from that, and should that factor prominently in the creation of any new legislation to ensure that such a challenge is any future challenge is not likely to achieve any success?
Yes, it has to be carefully read. I read a little bit of it. It's not very broadly stated, but I think the comfort that government can take from it is that, you see, the Privy Council has said, well, look, there are certain things that a government can do. For example, like they said, well, look, if you don't get permanent residency as a result of like tenure, they said there are other ways you can get permanent residency. So it's not as if it is overly restrictive anyway. So they were looking at how reasonable the measures were and how proportionate. And they found that the point system was actually proportionate and that it was not overly restrictive. After all, people could still become permanent residents under some other scheme other than the one that person was pursuing. So people should be careful that it's not carte blanche for government to do anything. But yes, they have now said, look, there's a certain leeway that the government has. If it gives certain categories in which you can become permanent resident, you can't say, well, because I can't become one under this, then it is unconstitutional. So there's a lot of scope for government to be able to do certain things which we thought that they couldn't do.
Okay, yes. And another point, another question. We know now in the current legislation that there's a type of permanent residence that you can obtain that runs for 25 years. I know why the 25 years were put in there, simply to ensure that those persons who qualified on that basis, who accepted it, first of all, because of the higher qualifications, you had to have certain amount of income and investment and all of those things. Only certain
millions of dollars.
Only certain categories of people would be applying for it anyway, and those persons didn't necessarily need to become British Overseas Territory citizen and then move on to Caymanian status. But the reason that 25 years was put in there was what I said earlier, that settled, when you look at the British Nationality Act and you look at the definition of being settled, it means being in the jurisdiction without any limitation on the time that you may remain in the territory. So when you put 25 years on it, the limitation is 25 years. Why don't we then just simply change our permanent residency, call it residency, and put a fixed date, a fixed timeline on it, be it 25, 30 years or whatever? Wouldn't that simplify things as well?
Well, that is something certainly that, first of all, it will simplify things. And secondly, it will answer some of these questions that people raise to say, well, but people can't stay without knowing when they might be, kicked off the island. They don't have permanence. If you give 25 years, you say, okay, permanent resident, you are here for 25 years, you can do all kinds of things there and there. And they could even say, that it is renewable, but you have to reapply. Just to ensure that when it goes to court, the court will say, hey, look, this gives you permanency. At the end of 25 years, you could even apply again. It makes it very difficult for somebody challenging it on a human rights level to be successful if you do it like that. And those are all things which I think that the government should be able to look at. What they have announced is good, but there's this refinement that we now need. One of the refinements, by the way, which I heard the minister say, which is something they did in the BVI. I wrote some legislation there many, many years ago. I understand that people used to get status. If you get married, you could get status after 7 years or something like that.
Well, in Cayman, if you were from a Commonwealth country and you got married, you received Caymanian status by operation of law. It was automatic. If you were from a Commonwealth country and you married a Caymanian, this was under the 1972 Caymanian Protection Law until it was changed in 1984.
Okay, it was changed in 1984 to say that you could get status, like you could get an expedited status?
No, prior to that, you could. It wasn't expedited. If, let's say, for instance, you were a Commonwealth, you were a Commonwealth citizen, and was restricted to female also, I think, and you married a Caymanian male, you automatically became Caymanian but on the day of that marriage, immediately on the day of that marriage, it was becoming Caymanian by operation of law, as opposed to having to apply for it.
Okay, but at the moment, what is the case? Like you
have to be married at least. I think it's 7 years.
Okay, yes.
To apply qualifying grounds of marriage. Yeah.
Yes, but the minister, I think what he announced was that they plan to abolish that, so that you will have to qualify for status at the same time that you would have qualified if you had not even been married.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, again, it's reasonable in my view. The one that I find to be maybe a little bit of an issue is that you will not get an employment rights certificate automatically. Which will be very interesting, because if you are married and you have to be here, I don't think you get it automatically as it is now anyway. I think I understand there's an application process.
Yes, there's an application to get the RERC,
to be able to get yes. But to me, those are some of the things I've discussed with people. Yes, they've said, look, why don't people just, if you get married, you apply for an RERC, and usually it will be given unless there's some real serious problem, and that ensures that your family can earn some income. But that so long as you can earn an income, there's no big rush to give you status. You can say, well, you will earn it as much as like everybody else, and I think it will discourage a few people who want to get married, get an RERC after 1 year, and then 7 years they get status. So,
but that may irk some Caymanians who genuinely enter into marriages and know that their intentions are for that marriage to be sustained over the years, and they may say, well, why do I have to suffer through this because of all of those persons who are entering into marriages for the wrong reasons?
Yeah, I know that these are the things also, having been a person who's worked in government for a long time, these are the balances that you have to draw. And there may well be one or two people who might suffer as a result. I understand that in Bermuda, you know better about this. I understand in Bermuda, if you get married to somebody and that person gets Bermudian status eventually through you, if you get divorced and you get married again, that second marriage doesn't you won't get automatic Bermudian status. They say that you go to the well once and that's it. You can't come back and get married a second time. That's what they did in Bermuda. So, well, very interesting. Also, are they inviting you to some of these meetings so that you can give your experience and I think it would greatly assist.
I'm getting in terms of my membership on the board, business staffing plan board, I'm able to have some input, and certainly my chair, is being highly consulted as well, and we would normally channel things through the chair as well. But I remain open and available in the event. I've only worked in the immigration department from 1983 until 2003, 20 years, and then as cabinet secretary for another 10 years. So I have a few years under my belt, if they want to take advantage of it.
Yes, I think it would be great, and especially for something like this, also something like this, which people have waited for. I think the government, and I've got no doubt they understand that. They need to really reach out there to people in the private sector, people such as yourself who are in part-time work with the government and so on, to really maximize the knowledge that they have on that matter, so that ultimately I hope we can achieve the greatest happiness for the greatest number. That's all we can hope.
So true. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Elsie. Thanks
you very much, Billy. Okay, so I'm going to read this one before we go. So this person wrote, and they wanted to know whether or not the coalition government, if they had any plans of discussing and engaging the general public on the proposed important changes to the immigration system. Then they go on to ask, will there be public meetings and more media opportunities to get broad input, feedback, and buy-in? Will there be a discussion paper published for consultation as normally is done. I would imagine there will be a white paper before anything is sent to Parliament in September. Are these changes only recommendations, or have these changes been adopted already? The answer to that would be no. And then I wanted to ask the panel if there is some objection in Cayman concerning dog walking. They go on to say dogs are God's creation too, and the strays at the Humane Society are mostly from Caymanians who have not spaded them or who have abandoned them. Then they say, will Caymanians now be walking the Humane Society stray dogs instead of depending on work permit volunteers to do so? So we'll address that when we return. Have to take a commercial break now. Please stay tuned. Talk today. We'll be back shortly.
Did you know that Doctors Hospital provides urgent care services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? And Doctors Hospital's urgent care physicians have access to the most advanced MRI and CT imaging in the Caribbean, providing reliable diagnostics when you need it most. When you need quality urgent care for an illness or injury, Doctors Hospital is here for you 24/7. Whether it's a migraine, chest or abdominal pain, shortness of breath, broken bones, or another urgent need, Doctors Hospital at the top of Walker's Road. Urgent care right now.
Shipping to the Cayman Islands is fast, reliable, and seamless thanks to Cayman Airways Cargo. Need it faster than ocean freight? Cayman Airways Cargo offers multiple cargo flights to Grand Cayman from Miami weekly, so your packages, whether big, small, or in between, will arrive in no time. You can even use a Cayman Airways Cargo US address for your online shopping. Cayman Airways Cargo is also the only carrier providing air freight services for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Contact us today and see why Cayman Airways Cargo was voted as Cayman's best cargo and logistics company in the Best of Cayman Awards. For details, visit CaymanAirways.com/cargo.
Stay cyber secure with Cayman National. Here are a few tips that will benefit you. Ensure to log out completely when you finish any online banking activities. Be aware of phishing attempts and only click links from trusted sources that are sent from your device through emails and messages. Remember, Cayman National will never ask you for your credentials. If you suspect a fraud attempt or that your account has been compromised, please immediately contact our customer support team at 949-8300.
Join us on July 10th at 5:30 p.m. for the BRAC launch of the Seamen's Registry at the Veterans and Seamen's Association Hall, as Celebrate Cayman invites seamen and their families to honor the vital contributions of our seafaring community to the Cayman Islands. Experience historical displays, hear inspiring speakers, and explore interactive exhibits. Plus, be among the first to visit the new Seafarers Registry website. Mark your calendars for July 10th. Exhibitions and activities will continue through July 12th. Let's come together to celebrate our maritime heritage.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. No guests in the studio. Phone lines are open. Toll-free number 1-800-534-8255. Or the landlines 949-8037, 949-6990. Also WhatsApp number 925-3261. So the person wanted to know whether or not there is some objection in Cayman concerning dog walking. Dogs are God's creation too. And the strays at the Humane Society are mostly from Caymanians who have not spaded them or who have abandoned them. Then the question, will Caymanians now be walking the Humane Society stray dogs instead of depending on work permit volunteers to do it? I would imagine, and this might just my opinion, that people volunteer to walk the dogs because of their love of animals. Some people do it on that basis. And based on what we have been hearing Some people do it as well to acquire points on their application for permanent residence. So there could be various motivations for persons walking dogs at the Humane Society. Why don't we look at the point system and see if it says anything about dog walking? Okay, I think that should help to put the matter, add a little bit more clarity to the matter as well. So there are the point system, the key aspects of the point system for permanent residents in the Cayman Islands. The categories are occupation. Initially, everyone employed receives 15 points, but a court case deemed this assessment opaque and arbitrary. System now has two categories for occupation, one awarding points based on the need for certain positions or niche skill sets, and another intended to incentivize high-value jobs. The other point is community involvement. Points are awarded for community service and charitable activities. I believe that is the one where the quote-unquote dog walking points come from. From that, the person showing that they are engaged in community involvement or engaged in charitable activities. The other points are for age. Points are awarded based on age, with younger applicants 25 to 35 receiving the highest number of points. That may be something that we want to rethink. If you give it to the younger persons, then they're in competition with the younger Caymanians, their Caymanian peers. They're in competition with them, and they will be in competition with them right up until they reach the point where they're retired as well. Why not do it the other way around? Offer it for the older persons who are reaching the age of retirement and who can afford to retire in the Cayman Islands based on their savings or whatever they have acquired in the Cayman Islands. That one, I would say you want to look at that again. Don't give it to the younger ones, because you just making the competition longer for Caymanians. Financial stability. Points are allocated for savings in local banks, bank accounts, and annual income. Demographics. Points are also allocated based on the applicant's demographic representation in the Cayman Islands workforce. Well, I know someone who applied from one of our sister British overseas territories, and I know that we don't have that many persons residing in Cayman from that overseas territory. I don't know how many points they got for that, but I do know at the end of the day that their permanent resident application was rejected. So not sure how closely that point is adhered to. We do have a caller. Let's grab the caller. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today.
Good afternoon to you, Mr. Overseas.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Just fine. Thankful. And I just probably have a little more time now. There are questions that I've asked that have not been answered for quite a while, but one of the things we have to be very careful about, and we see what is happening in the U.S. now with these CBIs that some of our West Indian and other islands have been doing, citizen by investment thing, that is now come under serious questioning by the present administration. And we knew this would happen someday. We knew it would happen someday. We're operating with a couple of liberal presidents. The years we know that is not likely to take place anymore. Not in my opinion, the U.S. are not going to continue with any liberal president. Now, after Mr. Trump goes, I don't see it happening again. We have to be very careful with that because in with those, we know there are undesirable people with a lot of money who can buy those citizenship. And that is what the United States is watching very, very carefully.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with us, we have been doing it, but it's a quiet thing, and you know it. You're just talking about it. And as a former chief immigration officer, I'm saying that there are people who have come here with a lot of money, and they're given residency and so forth. That might be the answer to give you, and they're given citizenship too, because of the money. And it has been on the quiet, but it's known. It's not something that you can keep hidden, as that former person was just saying. I don't remember who it was, Lord Grimm. It's a small country.
Mm-hmm.
And trust me, people may think that saying this is confidential when they say it in an ad or when they say it on the radio. It's not confidential. Most people know everybody's businesses here or everybody's business thing. And we know that, and that's accepted. You could do it, but you're saying I would just do a residency thing. Like the U.S. has a policy where they'll give you a green card if you have enough money. It's a yearly thing. I've forgotten what. It's something by investment too. A green card, not citizenship. It's and you have to have at least $100,000. What's that time? This is 40 years ago, 30, close to 40. And you had to, if you open a business, you had to employ at least 4 U.S. citizens. At least 4 U.S. citizens. The way they can check on these things, and this is why I constantly repeat this thing, is by direct income tax. They can check immediately on you because there's a system of control there. We don't have that here, so we don't have the kind of controls anywhere near to what the U.S. has. We have to go out and look and search and ask questions from this one.
Do we really? Not necessarily. We have an immigration system that goes back to the early 1980s, and improvements have been made to it. Where that information, we have the information. The information is there.
I understand what you're saying, but we still do have to do some legwork, travel around and all that. And that happens in the U.S. too, with people using each other's social security card. And then you might find out 10 people with the same social security card, name and number, because that matters a lot when you go to apply for a job in the U.S. All they're going to ask you for is your social security card. As most of us knew who has ever worked, lived and worked here. What I'm saying is just a fact. And they can be using it, passing around till some bright person, the IRS, will say it, because they give you a lot of latitude. Something is wrong here. Go and check on that individual, and that's it. But the point I'm making is we could do something like that, but it guarantees you the residency, as you were talking about, 25-year residency, because most of those people do not want citizenship. They have the money to do what they want, where they want, when they want. That's money makes you independent. And we could do that, make it into a law. That's that. Also, I've heard you say it before, you could also make a law, and we know that most people who come here, we're a service-based economy, so we're going to look for young people coming here to work. It's going to be young people. We don't really manufacture very much. A few thousand cases of beer. I mean export when I say manufacturing. And some rum cakes and some other things we export. Some, different bottles of Mrs. Peppers and different little things like that, which is minuscule to the population of the people who are able to work. And we could do a thing where, and I don't see why we can't push it, and we have to keep saying the British won't allow us, you can get our permit, but you're not going to be able to stay here permanently or apply for residency with this permit. That's the permits we will grant. And that's it. 5 years and it's over. 2 years and it's over, or what? You can reapply again in 2 years' time, etc., etc. But that is it. And there's no chance of you ever applying, and you sign it, you get your work permit as it is now being done, but that's it. That is attached to it, and it becomes a fixed law. We're too afraid of the powerful private sector here. And where the banks are manipulating things, and you can have a check drawn on a bank, and it's in good standing with one of their good clients, and yet still they refuse to cash the check because the person might not have an account. Little people come here, they don't expect to have an account with every bank. The other question I've asked, and no one still has been able to answer me. I have said it before and I'll say it again. Our passport says that this passport remains a property of the Crown at all times. And every British passport says the same thing. It was changed from what it used to be. The last maybe 10 years now, I think it's been changed. It could be longer, it could be shorter, but it's not a very long time. I don't know what a Scottish passport says. There are lots of Scots people here, or an Irish passport. But to me, if it says the same thing as a British passport, the property of the Crown, that is what your citizenship would be. That's why I say we're Crown colonists. And we should have the same privilege when it comes to external privileges like visas as they have with the United States. I see no reason why not. And several U.S. immigration officers have said this to me over the years. They do not see why we don't go to the U.S. Department of the Interior and ask them, our government doesn't, to give us the same privilege. I have no answer to them for that, no answer to people for that. And it's one thing I'd like to say.
Very quick call up because I'm going past my commercial break.
Oh, it's very quick. Mr. Jim Borden, we know he was against us remaining with the British. Everybody now knows that, I'm pretty sure of that. He always said he wants to take us as far away as possible, British. What he wanted us to do, I can tell you this, many conversations I had with him, to become a Commonwealth state like Puerto Rico, and every Caymanian would become a U.S. citizen. That is what Mr. Jim wanted. I do not care what anyone else wants to say it. He said it to me many, many times. Have a wonderful day. Maybe that's something for people to battle on with.
Thank you very much, caller. Thank you. Thank you very much. Much appreciated, folks. Please stay tuned. Talk today. We'll be back shortly.
Get ready for something sweet, spicy, and totally crave-worthy. The hot honey chicken sandwich is here, and it's bringing the heat. We've taken our tender, juicy chicken and drenched it in bold hot honey sauce for the perfect balance of sweetness and spice. But hurry, this one's only here for a limited time. Hot honey chicken. Try it today before it's gone. Subway. Eat fresh.
Shipping to the Cayman Islands is fast, reliable, and seamless thanks to Cayman Airways Cargo. Need it faster than ocean freight? Cayman Airways Cargo offers multiple cargo flights to Grand Cayman from Miami weekly, so your packages, whether big, small, or in between, will arrive in no time. You can even use a Cayman Airways Cargo US address for your online shopping. Cayman Airways Cargo is also the only carrier providing air freight services for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Contact us today and see why Cayman Airways Cargo was voted as as Cayman's best cargo and logistics company in the Best of Cayman Awards. For details, visit CaymanAirways.com/cargo.
Stay cyber secure with Cayman National. Protect your computers and mobile devices with security software to defend against cyber attacks through viruses, malware, and other online threats. Be aware of unsecure Wi-Fi connections when in public. If you need to access your online banking or sensitive information on your mobile devices, try disabling the Wi-Fi and switching to data from your mobile network. If you suspect a fraud attempt, please contact our customer support team at 949-8300.
Freedom, Cayman Brack. Freedom, Little Cayman. Soft breezes, blue waters, no traffic. Unwind and rejuvenate your mind, body, and soul. Sister Island Staycations, a taste of freedom. Discover all that our sister islands have to offer.
Now, more than ever, supporting your immune system is crucial to helping your body fight off illnesses like the common cold, the flu, and COVID-19. At ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road and in Buttontown, we carry all the essential vitamins and minerals to help support your immune system and improve your overall health. Some of our top immunity support picks are vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, elderberry, and quercetin are the popular 7-in-1 immunity support. Our pharmacists are always on hand to help guide you and answer any questions. Visit ValueMed Pharmacy on Walkers Road or Buttontown. Live happy, live healthy with ValueMed Pharmacy.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. I'm your guest host, Orrett Connor. So what our last caller was talking about, the British passport. Okay, I have in my hand here Cayman Islands passport. First of all, on the top it says British passport. And then on the bottom, of course, the coat of arms and stuff like that is on there. Not our coat of arms, British. And also Cayman Islands on the bottom, right? So first of all, it is a British passport. It identifies the holder as being from the Cayman Islands, a British overseas territory. And they could call us anything that they want to call us, like I said before. At one time, we were known as citizens of the United Kingdom and colonies. So want to be politically correct? Don't want to be using that word colony anymore. So why don't we call them British Dependent Territories citizens? And then when it was realized that, you know something, some of them really aren't that dependent on us, why don't we call them British Overseas Territory citizens? So that's what they call us. And they can call us anything that we want. You know why? Because we belong to them. You have your animals. You can name them whatever you want to name them because they belong to you. Okay? Not saying, not equating us, to animals. May have been a bad analogy. So also what the person was referring to in relation to what it says in the passport. It says, and I have to really strain my eyes to read this because it's so fine. This passport remains the property of the Crown and can be cancelled at any time. A person may be subject to criminal prosecution if this passport is subject to any unauthorized use or activity by the holder or any other person. So I think what the caller was referring to is that this passport remains the property of the Crown. We can't own this passport because only sovereign nations issue passport. We are not a sovereign nation. We are an overseas territory of the United Kingdom. They own us. And until and unless we realize that fact and recognize that fact, until then, only then, will we understand the limitations that we have as far as self-governing is concerned. We have to understand that. So when you hear people talking about, oh, they're allowed to come in and get our Cayman, passport and, get this. It's the British, all governed by the British nationality, to act because we are not a sovereign territory. We belong to the mother country. Bear that in mind. Keep that in mind, folks. And until we realize that, then we will recognize how far and how long we can go. So this person has written, and I really appreciate this one. It says, good day. When discussing immigration violations, please recognize the imbalance of power between the employer and employee. In most cases, when the employee complains, they are fired and sent home, whereas the employer normally continues with no restrictions on their business license, only paying a small fine at best. The reality is, it's not realistic to expect the exploited employee to stand and win over the employer. Until we root exploitation out of our immigration system, Caymanians will continue to suffer, as bad actors will always find it beneficial to abuse foreign workers instead of hiring Caymanians. One potential solution could be to have an anonymous holiness, I don't believe that's what they mean, to report immigration crimes, even offer rewards for information leading to arrest and conviction. Yeah, good point. But we also have to convince those persons who are being abused, who are being exploited, to come forward. And we continue to hear the argument that the reason that they won't come forward is because while they may be exploited, they're still making much more money than they would make at home being unemployed, or if employed on the small wages. That should not be any excuse, for that as well. And I think we have to offer more incentives to those persons who come forward when they're being exploited, but at the same time place more scrutiny, place more requirements on persons who are applying for work permits to ensure that they are not gaming the system as well. We do have a caller on hold, but what we need to do is we'll go to our headline news at 2 o'clock, and then we can take the caller without having to interrupt. Please stay tuned. Talk today. We'll be back shortly.
Radio station.
Radio Cayman is the voice of the Cayman Islands. From Radio Cayman's newsroom, this is Headlines.
The headline news is brought to you by Kirk Market.
With a look at your latest headlines, I'm Jevi Ebanks. 2 teenage girls reported as missing over the weekend have been located and are safe, says the police service. The police say that 15-year-olds Tanisha Williams and Kyla Watson had left their Lower Valley residence, with caretakers unable to contact them. The police say they have now safely returned home and thanks the public for their assistance. In regional news, the Trinidad and Tobago government is set to introduce new laws, according to Prime Minister Kamal Persad-Besesar. The newly minted government says they will raise the legal age for alcohol to 21 and for marijuana and gambling to 25. The government is also set to introduce a home invasion bill that will let people defend themselves or their property with force, including deadly force, without needing to retreat. The bill defines home invasion as illegal entry with intent to harm or threaten and is set to go to Cabinet this week, then to a national consultation, and finally Parliament in September. Other legal changes include the Firearms Act, which will be amended to ease access to legal guns and to streamline the use of pepper spray laws, as well as cut-off times for outdoor parties and music trucks, with exemptions for festivals. In Belize, Police Commissioner Dr. Richard Rosado is urging Belizeans to support the proposed 13th constitutional amendment. A public consultation is set to be held on the 16th of July. The government says that the laws will help to fight crime and support states of emergencies, especially in gang-affected areas. Critics, including lawyers, unions, and the opposition, says it could harm civil rights. Speaking where a mother and her son were killed last week, Dr. Rosado said the law is needed to protect communities and to stop gang violence. That's your latest headlines. I'm Jevi Ebanks.
www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Check out our social media pages: Facebook, YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, Radio Cayman Headline News.
Looking for fresh, healthy food that's full of flavor? Then you've got to visit Kirk Market. Our dishes are made with fresh, high-quality ingredients. Enjoy vibrant mixed greens or satisfying pasta salads. Or try one of our delicious grill options like blackened chicken, spicy beef steak, or grilled salmon. Looking for something light and flavorful? We've got sushi rolls and poke bowls prepared daily. And don't forget to explore a hot bar or Billy Fresh salad at the salad bar. Stop by Kirk Market today for breakfast, lunch, or dinner and taste the difference. Eat well, live well with Kirk Market.
Shipping to the Cayman Islands is fast, reliable, and seamless thanks to Cayman Airways Cargo. Need it faster than ocean freight? Cayman Airways Cargo offers multiple cargo flights to Grand Cayman from Miami weekly, so your packages, whether big, small, or in between, will arrive in no time. You can even use a Cayman Airways Cargo US address for your online shopping. Cayman Airways Cargo is also the only carrier providing air freight services for Cayman Brac and Little Cayman. Contact us today and see why Cayman Airways Cargo was voted as Cayman's best cargo and logistics company in the Best of Cayman Awards. For details, visit caymanairways.com/cargo.
Accidents and illnesses can strike without warning. Ouch! When it comes to urgent care, every second counts. At Doctors Hospital, we have a dedicated team of experienced doctors and nursing staff available to you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Don't waste time in an overcrowded emergency room when you need urgent care. Whether it's a broken bone, a severe infection, or a sudden illness, trust in Doctors Hospital's unwavering dedication to providing the best immediate care. For complete urgent care when you need it the most, choose Doctors Hospital, located in Georgetown, 16 Middle Road.
Stay cyber secure with Cayman National. Here are a few tips that will benefit you. Ensure to log out completely when you finish any online banking activities. Be aware of phishing attempts and only click links from trusted sources that are sent from your device through emails and messages. Remember, Cayman National will never ask you for your credentials. If you suspect a fraud attempt or that your account has been compromised, please immediately contact our customer support team at 949-8300.
The best foundation you can wear is glowing, healthy skin. The offices of dermatologist Dr. Wayne Porter specialize in enhancing your skin's well-being. Whether you're seeking advanced skin care, including any skin cancers, Botox, filler, cosmetic skin enhancements, or simply looking to reduce wrinkles, Dr. Porter offers a full-service dermatology and dermatological surgery practice. For more information, email drportercayman@gmail.com or call 946-9020. That is 946-9020.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. What is on your mind, Cayman?
Good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today. We're going straight to the phone lines because that caller's been holding on for a while. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today.
Good afternoon again, Mr. Oshie.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon again.
I think we might have a little bit of a misunderstanding there.
Okay.
The point I was making with a British passport, and ours, of course, says British also.
Mm-hmm.
The British passport issued to British citizens. It says the same thing in the fine writing. That fine writing has to have a purpose, or it wouldn't have been put there.
Yeah, it's making it quite clear that the passport belongs to the Crown, the issuing jurisdiction. Yeah.
Good, sir. As I said, I do not know what a Scottish passport or an Irish passport says. There are Irish citizens here on Scott. They can easily call in and tell you what it says.
Mm-hmm.
The point I'm making is this. It says the property of the Crown.
Mm-hmm.
It used to say Her Majesty's, in this case now it would be His Majesty's, government in the United Kingdom. Government. But the Crown isn't a government. And this can be cancelled at any time.
But the Crown is the monarch.
The monarchy. This is my point. So we belong to the monarchy. Because your passport on any country I know of, or any nation, is the property of that nation. That it shows that you're a citizen of that nation, or you cannot have a passport. Everyone else I know about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you said it is because, of course, we're not a nation, so we cannot issue passports.
Mm-hmm.
We used to issue them right here, but that has changed. We know. Nationality Act or whatever act it is.
Mm-hmm. We only issued them on behalf of the United Kingdom. They gave us the authority to do that.
They gave us the authority, but it used to say government. No.
I'm not too sure about that. I would have to see a passport that said government. I don't recall that.
It used to.
Okay.
All of I have them in front of me right now. It used to say the property of Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
That's what it used to say.
Got you. Okay.
You can check it out. And the change was made. And I asked, there was a representative there from the United Kingdom on the radio station some years ago. She did not know that's what her passport said. And I told her, and she was kind of embarrassed. And I asked why had it been changed, and she couldn't tell me.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't tell me why. Right on that radio station, your radio station, you can look it up. There has to be a reason. I might be the only one who says this, but I will not back down from this. Why that decision was made to change it to the Crown from His or Her Majesty's government in the United Kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
There has to be a reason. They do not do things, even though it's very confusing. We know with the British system.
So would you wish to speculate as to why the change was made?
I don't want to speculate as to why. I'll throw a question out to you. What happens? And please don't say it can't happen. That didn't happen in my time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm older than you are. We are not young. We are not young. What happens if the British people, by referendum, vote to get rid of the monarchy?
Uh-huh.
To whom do we belong then? If that is proper.
That's a valid question.
To whom do we belong? We can't go to government and say, if we're prosecuted for anything, and who is going to say that the passport is cancelled? Wouldn't it have to be the courts there and then go to the political arm to act for us or something there in Great Britain?
Well, why don't we use a Republican country, that is not under monarchy, like the United States? How is it handled there in terms of a passport?
Well, it's handled by the
State Department.
The State Department.
Mm-hmm.
And it can go to the Supreme Court, and it can go there. There are courts for deportation and all that. As we know, it can be a long, dragged-out process to deport people. But the president has overriding powers in many, many instances. That's why they're president. Each state has a president, a governor. But then there's the president of the 50 states. Well, And the Supreme Court, the same thing. They all have a Supreme Court, but there's a Supreme Court of the United States, which is different. But they're all appointed politically with a political agenda. We know that. But the system in Great Britain, as I said, I cannot see why we have to get a visa to go to the United States. Granted, we get the one entry quite easily and so forth, but it's a one entry visa. It's not the same. I can't see why, if the passport say the same thing, it belongs to the crown. That's the point I was trying to make. There are thousands, hundreds of lawyers here, and you know much more than me about immigration processes. But I cannot see why we should be different from them. If the passport says the same thing, we belong to the same entity.
Okay,
we belong to the crown.
If I could, very quickly there, because we have another caller.
Yes,
Bermuda had a similar situation, right? Bermuda passport says the same thing, that the passport belongs to the crown. That is not what the authorities look at. What they look at in the passport is the designation, right? At first, when Bermudan passports were being issued, it would say BMU inside of the passport. The Bermudans have something similar to what we have, the visa waiver, and they were allowed to enter into the U.S. from any place outside of the United States with that passport without requiring a visa, because it said Bermuda BMU on it. When the UK started to produce the passports, they changed something in there, and the category, the classification was GBR as opposed to BMU. You know what happened? The Bermudans then had a difficult time entering the US with that classification. They weren't extended the same courtesies as they were extended when it said BMU. So what it says in that page there about belonging to the British, to the Crown or the British government or whatever, really that is insignificant, because they're looking at your categorization. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if that helps.
I believe what you say, but it still leaves that thought in my mind that there's something very wrong.
Well, we'll try to see if we can recover that. Yes, we'll try to see if we can.
Maybe somebody else.
Take care. Okay, thank you very much, caller. Let's grab another caller. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today.
Afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Excellent. I don't know about anybody else, but I don't belong to the UK. Those days, they're long gone. I know what he's getting at, though. Well, here's the thing. When owning colonies became unfashionable, the UK put us under the UN umbrella, sort of like in a trust until we grow up and decide what we want to do. And the UK's political relationship with the Cayman Islands is that they are an administering power. They don't own us as in like how you own a car. They are responsible for our governance, like a minor, an adult would be responsible for a minor until they become of age and decide whether they live in the house or not. That's why they're an administering power. And that's why we have separate legislation, because we have rights to decide what we want to, how we want to live. If you look at Article 73 of the UN Charter, it talks about our political, our social, our economic rights. In fact, as an administering power, the UK recognizes that our rights are paramount. Think about how significant that word paramount is. But, you know, like most politicians, when they act, they normally do something different from what they know they ought to do. And so when they were making creating the Cayman, the constitution order for the Cayman Islands, they legislated that their interest was
paramount,
took priority.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to mature a little bit politically and understand that this relationship isn't really, the way it's fashioned from a legal perspective, isn't really about our best interests. Because the way they look at it is you could have a right to do something, but you could sign that right over to someone else. Now, I'm sure they didn't come to any Caymanian and say it plain like that and say, well, would you sign over your rights to us? That's not what they did. They did it in a way that gives the impression that, we were well aware that we were signing over all of our rights to them, that their rights would be first priority, and that we freely made that decision with wide open eyes.
But did we have any other? What other choice would we have had? Being a colony of the United Kingdom, because while you're saying that you don't belong to anybody, we are a colony of the United Kingdom. All they did, after 1962 and thereon, was basically change the name, but the situation didn't change. So did we have any other choice in our constitution other than choosing to go independent?
We don't have a constitution.
Well, whatever it is that we have, did we have any other choice?
What we have is a document that they created by which they will administer us.
But how are they, caller, how are they able to administer us? You talk about Section 73 of the United Nations Charter. There were other countries in the world that were governed by other places. For instance, the Germans, Namibia was governed under the Germans. There were several other countries that were considered to be territories that were administered, but they were for finite periods of time. They weren't considered to be a part of those countries. They were just administered by them. The Cayman Islands are a part of the United Kingdom, irrespective of what they may say in Section 73 of the Constitution. We are a British colony, British overseas territory, British dependent territories, citizen, whatever. And we can only change that. The UK government has said that relationship can only be changed. If we want to go to independence, it has to be by the will of the majority of the people of the Cayman Islands.
Right. So to answer your question is, how could they do it? They do it because we allow it.
No, I disagree. Well, yeah, I agree we allow it because we refuse to go to some other constitutional status.
We have a right to self-determination.
Yes, agree.
So they do it because we allow them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I'm making is that in that charter, under international law, they acknowledge that our rights are paramount. And what I'm actually saying there is this. It's just like how Bilica was explaining to you what the court case meant and how we can do this and how we can do that. We can do more than we think. But we're too afraid.
Yes. I agree.
Anyhow, leave it there.
Okay. Thank you very much, caller. We have another caller. Let's grab the caller. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Mr. Rosti.
Good afternoon.
I know you know who it is.
Yes, sir.
I have nothing to hide, but I want to expose some of the worthlessness that we are tolerating in this little God-given island. Unfortunately, we will have to change the name about that after a short while if we don't change some of our, what should I say? disgraceful
habits,
acts of culture, as they call culture. It is not Cayman culture. This thing called Caymas, I understand. I wasn't nowhere near there, but I saw a picture or a video of some of the activities that was going on in the center of Georgetown or somewhere on the street. And I can't believe that human beings with any recognition or respect whatsoever will tolerate that kind of behavior. I don't know who was there, who wasn't, but anyone that was there enjoying that should be ashamed of themselves, put it that way. They had on, I don't know if it's costumes or bathing suits or there's scripts called bathing suits probably, but anyway, that's what they were displaying their culture in.
Mm-hmm.
And that's bad enough. But the disgraceful body actions of both the young men and women that they were performing, animals are the only ones that act that kind of way. Cows, pigs, goats, whatever, not human beings. And on our streets in Georgetown, it's a disgrace for the government to tolerate that. It ought to be banned. Can you tell me what the idea in this Caymas thing is for anyway?
It's supposed to be some sort of carnival celebration. Carnival celebration. And if you've seen carnival celebrations in jurisdictions, one of the most famous ones would be in Brazil, as well. And that's the way that they dress. That's the way that they celebrate.
Well, if they want to do that in Brazil, that's up to them, but not in Cayman.
And other countries beside Brazil.
That is our culture.
Mm-hmm.
This is a artificial culture, if you want to call it that, by people that we're importing here or allowing to come here, maybe especially to be in these kind of functions.
It would surprise you how many Caymanians are involved in it too, sir.
Sorry?
I say it would surprise you how many Caymanians are involved in the carnivals and the Caymas and stuff like that.
That's the hurtful part. But you know what? They're catching it from these foreigners that have been brought in over the years, and they think it's just as nice as anything since sliced bread.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a disgrace to the country, and I will speak out.
Sure.
Anytime I see anything that goes on like this, regardless of who it hurts, who thinks that it should be kept going. I am here to defend the Lord, defend God's, what should I say, gift of the Cayman Islands to us. We should be on our knees on Sunday morning, not out there Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening, displaying three-quarter naked bodies and doing actions, like I say, that only animals that we know about would be carrying on such behavior. I don't understand why they do how to act so bad. I mean, if it's bad enough, like you say, if they had skip a little bikinis or whatever on, but not to go and do what I've seen in a video.
Mm-hmm,
I can't believe it. And I know people that were very unhappy with it when they saw what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we don't need that kind of culture in the Cayman Islands, and I hope we'll not condone it any longer. I hope we'll stop anything that tends to go in that direction. It's happening now, it looks like 3-4 times a year, some kind of carnival or other. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't have the right to celebrate or have some fun if they want to call it that, but not to the extent that they're going on with nowadays. So I hope the government will pick this up and see what can be done to prevent this. If Cousin Anna Borden was still alive, they wouldn't have had that more than one time. She would have stopped that overnight.
That is so true.
But why have we drifted so far away from that kind of culture or behavior? Anyway, I think I've said enough.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. This caller, and I'll have to do a little bit of research on it because there's something in the Immigration Act under work permits that addresses this. person wanted to know, earlier this morning, wanted to know whether or not there are any restrictions in place for internships locally. Are children of expats entitled to get a 3-month work permit for same? And they asked the same question this afternoon. I'll have to look at the Immigration Act, but there are some provisions in there for children who are under the age of 18 in relation to their ability or not requiring a work permit. I'll have to look at that and answer it on another date, hopefully tomorrow. I believe there may be another WhatsApp caller. Yeah? Oh, so we have 2 callers left? Okay, let's try to see if we can cover both in 6 minutes. Which one was on first? WhatsApp. Let's grab the WhatsApp caller first. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today.
Yeah, good afternoon, Mr. Orrett.
Hey, good afternoon. How are you doing?
Okay. Well, they went from Pirates Week to Carnival to Children's Carnival to Gay Pride March. These people just taking spit in Jesus' face. But that's not what I call about. Concerning being a British overseas territory, does that mean that our young men from the ages of 18 to 35, if there was a world war to started, does that mean being a British overseas territory that the British government are able to draft these young men into this war by force?
I would imagine if they were to introduce conscription, where rather than you volunteering, that you're required to serve, that if the British were engaged in any war, because of the fact that we are a British overseas territory, that they could craft legislation as such that would require us to be part of that. They could.
Okay, let me ask you another question. The man that crushed and came ashore in Cayman, that was part of the royal family, that made the law that Cayman would not have to pay any taxes. What was his name?
I don't know, because there seems to be some question as to whether or not that was actually the case. I'll have to go back and take a look at Founded Upon the Seas and also look at Mr. Roy Borden's his writings to see exactly what it says on that. But there are some who have questioned the validity of all of that.
Okay. Well, if you don't remember his name, and they're saying that it's because of him and being saved by the people of the Cayman Islands that caused him to make a law that we would not be taxed as a country. Because of that man, is it because of him doing that and being saved by the people of the Cayman Islands and saying that the Cayman Islands will not be taxed as other overseas territories? Does that have anything to do with also the British not being able to draft our young men into a war because of this man being saved by Caymanians and Cayman not being taxed as other British overseas territories?
I couldn't opine on that, caller. Couldn't opine on that at all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, caller. Last caller for the day. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today. Good afternoon, caller. Are you still there? Welcome to Talk Today. Okay, call drop. If you have about a minute, if you want to call back, let me just look and see whether or not there are any other questions that... Okay, this one... Caller's back? Okay. Caller, good afternoon. Welcome to Talk Today.
Yes, sir. I just have a two piece to put on to what I know the pastor, but I ain't going to call his... Hello?
Mm-hmm. Yes, go ahead.
I ain't going to call his name, but I never watched this mass thing, but I agree, because years ago I went out and watched one of them as a woman, and I tell you that I was so shame, because what I'm saying, they don't be dancing. Yes, I agree that they should put a law that they can't be out there showing their parts. If they have on if they want to put on bathing suit, you can get nice bathing suits or put on a shorts, but they will be out there with half of their parts hanging out, and then the next thing they be drunk and disorderly, and then kids, small kids, the cars out there to see that, and they be humping each other like animals and stuff and dancing vulgar dance, and I agree that shouldn't be going on our streets because that don't look good, and they don't have no shame. I don't care if it's Caymanian, Honduran, whatever. They don't have no shame for themselves, and then they should ban the alcohol drinking till when the thing is done. Yes, I agree, be hot and thing, but they can drink water, which is good for your body. Alcohol is no good to you, and then they be all drunk and disorderly and doing all kind of stupidness, because they don't be dancing. They be working up and twerking up on each other, look like dogs and, like he said, cats and pigs and whatever. So I agree that it should be some rules put on that. Yes, if they want dance and they say they're young and celebrate whatever, which everyone should be seeking God, because that kind of thing not going to get them no way. God soon come for his wicked world, so they better be ready. If they want to go to the pearly gates of heaven, or they want to go to the hinges of hell that the devil jug on with that big fucker, that is ridiculous. And yes, they are inventing other cultures from other countries, because they have it in Jamaica, Trinidad, all over, and that's just how they be going on, dancing and doing the vulgarness, and they bring in the nasty cultures to Cayman, and I agree with Pastor. All of that shouldn't be in our streets, and I don't know who else think that is cute, but me as a woman, I think that it is ridiculous, and that kind of thing don't entertain me.
Thank you.
That's not entertainment. That's vulgar, nasty dirtiness, as I would call it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Agree on it. And like I would say, what one lady say, I don't care who like me, I don't care what they think about me, and I don't care if they hate me. And I can't say what she say on the radio, but that's how I feel. I don't care, because so long God loves me, I don't care about the rest of the world, and I'm speaking my mind today. That's how I look at it, which I know other people mightn't agree, because like my people say, people gonna be people and you can't change them, but that's my 2 cents on it. That's how I look at it.
Thank you very much, caller, for that. Very quickly, if I can share this, so this person says, thanks for dealing with the dog walking community involvement matter, and also opining on the improvements needed in the point system. Person says, I also believe that points should be reduced for real estate investment for, say, less than $750,000 purchase by PR applicants, but replace it by adding a new category of points for PR applicants who can demonstrate or document that they have good relations with Caymanian workers. Also, they have been involved in the training or career development of Caymanians as well. I want to know what we think, and I agree with that as well. I think one of the things that should be dispensed with would be those character references, especially when persons on their jobs are requested by one of their superiors, or maybe even one of their equals in the business, in the company, to provide them with a character reference for status or PR or whatever, because it places undue pressure on that person. We know if they were to refuse and say, I'm sorry, I'm not prepared to grant one, they're likely to be victimized, for that. Or they may just do a letter without genuinely believing what they say in those letters of recommendation as well. So there's so many other ways we can look at the point system to move away from this whole issue. And what's wrong with reintroducing the fact that you have to publish your name and your photograph in the newspaper, so that if anyone has any credible, valid objection to you being granted Caymanian status, that they can submit their objections to the board? Why not bring that back? Why not resurrect that? This way, people won't then be quietly getting their Caymanian status, but you know exactly who wants to be Caymanian, who's applying for it. It won't all just happen in a vacuum or behind a curtain that everyone knows who's applying. Just a thought, just a thought. Folks, thank all of you who participated this afternoon, either by calling in or sending questions via WhatsApp as well. I welcome you to join me tomorrow morning at 7:30 for the record. And in the first part of the show, 7:30 to 8 o'clock, we will be talking about I'm trying to remember the name of it. Well, we'll be having a discussion with Miss Merle McGann, who will be in the studio from 7:30 to 8 o'clock with us. So join me then. Have a great evening, and may God bless.
Talk Today is brought to you by Subway, open 24 hours in Countryside, Anderson Square in Georgetown, and Centennial Towers in West Bay. And by the Ministry of District Administration, explore your history, explore your land, explore your sister islands. And Cayman Airways, call them on 949-2311 to book your nonstop flights to Los Angeles and Panama. And Doctors Hospital, peace of mind is important when life happens. Doctors Hospital, always there for you. Call 949-6066.
Talk Today is also brought to you by Mike's Builders. Call 923-0706. Mike Builders. They make it happen.